Hi, everybody. You're watching the one and only Sugansherm Podcast with the one and only UFC Hall of Famer, my homie, Sugar Rashad Evans.
What's going on, Mike Sherman?
I'm happy to be here today. Happy Yom Kippur to all my Jewish peeps out there, like these guys, and my non-Jewish peeps. And then we have a special guest today. I'm so excited to have him on the show. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. I don't know how to introduce him. Former MMA fighter, former WWE wrestler, philanthropist. I mean, Dan, you got it going on. It's Daniel Puder from Cooper City, California? Cupertino, California. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on Sugar and Sherm.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you.
Dude, it's amazing to have you here.
We were just together Friday at Mike Tyson's event.
We were at Tyson's event. You came to represent that, and that meant a lot to me. Mike was happy to see you.
Yeah.
Rashad obviously was in Vegas doing his UFC stuff.
Yeah,
but it was a great show.
Yeah.
So you and Rashad have a lot of similarities and, very similar backgrounds. You guys both came from different parts of the country that were kind of the inner cities. Mm-hmm. And you guys came up through the ranks of fighting, wrestling, former wrestler. Yeah. And you guys become big-time stars on television. So take us down your journey, man. I mean, you were a rough kid, a bad kid. How did you get into MMA and all this stuff?
I wasn't bad. I just beat the bully up, right? Like, that's what ended me up in juvenile hall. But so I went in juvenile hall. Have you ever been to jail? You never been to jail?
No, I can't say I have.
Okay. It's not fun, I'll tell you that. They stick you in a little cell.
Well, one time a holding cell. That was in college for some weed. But
got it. This is a weekend.
I didn't know about this.
That's a whole other story, baby.
Okay.
Mike Sherman has a dark side.
Because you said you were going to go deep today. So I want to bring you
We're going to go deep today. We are going deep.
Bring Sherm into this.
Yeah. So tell me about.
So juvenile hall, ended up in juvenile hall. So I was, let me go back a little more. I was labeled learning disabled as a kid.
What does that mean, learning disabled? Like autistic?
That means they said that I had learning disabilities around letters and words. Like reading, writing, super challenging for me. Mm-hmm. My mind just doesn't work. You give me numbers all day. So it's interesting.
You're like Rain Man on with Tom Cruise,
something. Yeah. Like I can, I mean, people are really good at numbers.
Yeah.
But I know how to put forecasts together. I mean, I can do all that stuff. I've self-taught on 90% of it, right? Mm-hmm. Find the right mentors. Built companies. We have a multi-million-dollar company now, so it's really interesting to see. I can hire lawyers or people for the words, but then I still look over contracts. Like I probably looked over 400, 500 pages of contracts.
So you still have a problem, a disability looking at contracts till this day?
Dude, it's so challenging to look at these words. Like it's a comprehension challenge. So I can read the word fine, but how it makes sense in my brain, I don't know.
You can't grasp.
I've worked on everything. So I figured out how to work it at this point. So eventually kids just bullied and teased me my whole childhood. They called me dumb, an idiot.
You were an LD all through high school?
Yeah, elementary was like probably the worst. Middle school was challenging, but my parents put me in a private school, and then I failed out. They said either you have to leave or we're gonna fail you. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Monte Vista High School, and I wrestled there. I had a great coach, had a great team, did well in wrestling. Broke my hand my senior year, but I beat this kid up who was basically talking smack and doing whatever he was doing.
Heavyweight or 198? What was your weight class?
So I was heavyweight, yeah.
Okay.
I weighed 215-ish.
Yeah.
But in high school I wrestled was it 197s then?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So or 215s, that's what it was. It was under 215.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great. I won CCS with a broken hand. I broke my hand first day of Central Coast section. Which CCS is pretty tough. Yeah. And I broke my hand but I pinned or teched all the top guys. Mm-hmm. Throughout the year, but coming back, broke my hand first day, still won. And then I went to state. I was ranked 4th and with a broken hand and had a couple matches, won one, lost one. Then I called Frank Shamrock, who was my coach at the time, after juvenile hall. Right. And he said, I go, what do you think? He goes, well, if you jack up your hand too bad, maybe you won't be able to fight. Who knows? But at the end of the day, your choice.
No, at this stage, what part was Frank in his career? Like I know he had a
tough childhood.
It was right around Tito Ortiz time.
Okay.
So it's interesting because I walked into American Kickboxing Academy when I was 17, and one of my buddies at my wrestling team in high school.
Now this is the same AKA that DC, Cain Velasquez.
Yep.
And everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I was before all those guys.
Those dudes.
Yeah,
okay.
I was with Mike. Cain came after, probably like 4 years after. I was with Mike Swick. I was with John Fitch. I was with
Josh Koscheck.
So it was interesting. I think I was there a little bit before a few of them. Paul Bonatello.
Yeah, I remember Paul.
Amazing guys. Paul's a great guy.
I trained with Paul for a long time at Jackson's. Yeah.
So so I went in there, and you know how they give you
Mike Bernard's there too.
Yeah, I like
Mike Bernard. Yeah.
This is like, we have Jewish geography. This is UFC geography.
Yeah. So I went in there, and you know how they give you like a week pass for free?
Yeah.
Like in some like 24-hour fitness or golds or whatever. Like I got
Yeah.
the week for free.
Yeah.
And they beat the crap out of me. They pushed the shit out of me, right? And then I went home after the week, and I'm like, Mom, Dad, can you guys give me $150 a month so I can go beat people up, like learn how to like fight? And they were like, hold on, we just paid like, I don't know, $4 or $5 grand for your lawyer. You know,
to get you out of
jail. Yeah. They're like, we're not going to pay, another couple grand a year to get you to be a better fighter. And I'm like, that makes sense. So I went back to Hav, and I go, Hav, what if I clean your toilets, mop your mats? And my dad taught me that skill set at 12 years old. In his own company, he rolled up his sleeves day one when I was 12. And he's like, I'm going to teach you the basic skill sets in the different company. And then he put me with his different managers until I was 18.
Like a janitor company.
Oh, no, he made ink for golf balls.
Okay.
But he still had bathrooms, so he brought me into the bathroom. He's like, you need to learn these different skill sets, which most people today.
What do you mean bathrooms? You clean the bathroom?
Yeah, clean the bathroom at my dad's company.
Wow.
But then he put me with his engineering guy and his chemistry guy. He makes the ink actually on the golf ball. So it's crazy that, at a 12-year-old age, I learned a skill set that I didn't need till I was 17. And when I needed it, when my parents wouldn't, help me, it worked. And they gave me a membership, and I worked my ass off, and I was their punching dummy for, a couple years. And then I went pro. My first pro fight was in Japan for X1 for Brian Johnson's organization.
This is a real coming of rank story where you started at the bottom, cleaning out the bathroom.
I did it.
You know, you had enough money to actually
Started at the bottom,
train
now we
and
here.
fight. Yeah, I
We're
mean,
a little Drake shit.
That's a pretty
So
good
it wasn't,
story, man.
but this thing, it wasn't just cleaning the stuff. It was them getting to kick the crap out of me, right?
Yeah. You got to
But
help
then
you
I
out
was
of you.
tough. So it wasn't like them just like walking over me every day. And I think at probably like 20-ish, 21, Frank was like, no, I'm not training with you anymore, because I just got too big. I was tough.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, I went to college, and then I wrestled for a year, and I was at Menlo College in Atherton. Great coach up there, Keith. And then I went to WWE full time.
Take a step back before you get to WWE.
Yeah. How did that transition work?
Yeah,
I mean,
how did you audition for that?
Yeah, I know.
A video.
So did you stop fighting altogether and then went to WWE, or were you
No.
doing kind of simultaneously?
I was doing college. So I fought professionally my first pro fight. Then I went to college. So I was like, I'll wrestle for a couple of years, get it done, and then go back to fighting, or fight around the schedule. And then I sent a video into Tough Enough, and they loved it. They called me. They're like, you have the best video we've ever seen. And it was me frolicking. It was me on my motorcycle.
So it wasn't even fighting?
Yeah, frolic. Like it's entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
have some fun. Like I was dancing, right?
Yeah.
So they loved it, and they were like, "Hey, would you come down to Venice to be our top 50?" And so I went down there, and the obstacle course I did great because I was in really.
They make
good
you actually
shape.
try out for this?
Oh yeah.
So there's a whole tryout?
Oh,
for
yeah,
this?
Like 10,000 plus people send in their videos.
Yeah,
Really?
It's intense.
So you go down to Venice on Muscle
But
Beach?
Venice, think about this: out of 10,000 people, they picked top 50. Like these were NFL guys and Olympians, and some people were going to the hospital.
Wow.
Like they couldn't hack the obstacle course. Now, obstacle course is like 2 minutes long.
I could do that, man.
On sand, and you were timed,
I think I
right?
could do that.
So the first day, I think I got the second best time, and the second day it was a double obstacle. The second day, that like they linked
Was it?
it.
I mean, did you have a chance to even see what the obstacle course was about?
No, before. No. They just said show up.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I got the best time the second day, but I was horrible on my promo. I cut the worst promo. Like it was so bad.
But how do they expect you to cut a promo when you've never like had any kind
Some
of
people did all right.
from watching on TV?
But I thought
Yeah.
you said you sent something in the beginning that was kind of goofy and funny, so they called you. Now you have another promo you had to do?
Live in front of like 6 guys from WWE.
So tell me
they
about
put
that. What is the promo?
So they had 3 pieces. They had a obstacle course in the sand, then they had a bench press, and then they had a promo. So they put you in a ring on the sand in front of a bunch of people from the execs at WWE, and they said, cut a promo. You got 30 seconds.
Oh man.
Wow.
So you got stage struck a little bit.
I was like, oh. So what they did was they were like, okay, we'll give you a shot. You see that girl down on the stage on the beach down there? Go pick her up and bring her back here. So I ran my ass down there. I was like, please, I will. I'm trying to do this. I'm going after my dreams. Like, right? And she's like, okay, cool. So she came back.
You got the blonde hair, the blue eyes, surfer looking dude.
Yeah.
Couldn't be that hard.
Mine as
of
well,
a close.
right? Like it worked. So she came back and they put me top 8, and then we started.
So when you guys started, were you in California? Or did you guys go out to Orlando? Because I know they have a big camp out here now.
Now it's Orlando, but
Yeah.
it was actually Connecticut. So our
Mm.
tough the first
Yeah, that's where
three,
Vince is from.
yeah, the first 3 Tough Enoughs were on MTV.
Right.
My Tough Enough was the 4th one, and it was the only $1 million Tough Enough. So I'm the only $1 million Tough Enough champ ever in WWE, which is pretty cool.
And you won it.
And of course I won.
But did they give you the $1 million? No,
No.
It's all
I can tell
bullshit,
you-
right?
No, it was
You're rushing
I'm
the
all
story.
pumped up, man.
He's like,
I
I just
want to
wanna
know what's
know.
going on with this damn Tough Enough stuff.
So we went out to Connecticut, and we would stay in a hotel for like 3 or 4 days, and then we'd go to TV tapings, which was on Tuesday, and they aired back there on Thursday on
Mhm.
SmackDown. And then everybody else except for me would go back to their home, and I would go back to Connecticut. The 3rd week, right after the whole Kurt Angle thing, and we can talk about
Yeah,
that
we're
too.
going to get into that.
But right after that, there's a guy in the parking lot smoking a cigarette, and I would roll into the gym. So I was like, you know, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put 100% effort, and I'm going to win. So you go back. I'm not going to go home and party with my friends for a couple days and then go back to Connecticut. So I walk in. I'm walking into the gym, and he's in the parking lot. He goes, "Kid, you're going to win." And I'm like, "Thank you." Like I'm like,
Who was the
"You're
guy?
a fan, right?" Okay,
Getting to that.
hold on. I'm getting there.
I know.
I'm Mike.
I'm cutting to the
work-
chase a lot.
I know. I'm
I
working
got to
on
slow
this.
down.
So I'm like, "Thank you very much." Smoking a cigarette. So after I won, I showed back up again to headquarters. He goes, "Same guy smoking a cigarette, like in the parking lot, right?" He goes, "I told you you'd win." I look at this guy and I'm like, "How'd you know I was going to win?" He goes, "I'm the dude that's in charge of the fan votes online."
Oh man.
It's the question that you don't know in life
Yeah.
that will literally kick your ass. If I
Yeah.
knew that, I would say, "Hey, what's my demo?
Right.
Who am I hitting? Where am I not hitting? Where do I need to go?" Like, you know what I'm saying? I would have thought
Yeah.
outside the box
Yeah.
more, but I just didn't know the right question. Like, what do you do in WWE? You know, let me pick
Yeah.
your brain
But
about
the
this.
best thing, most important thing, you were nice to him.
Oh,
And you're cool with him, and that resonated more than anything, you know.
I was the guy that would sign extra autographs in WWE when everybody else would just go to the hotel room, and I got crap for it. But I was
Really?
like, hold on, but this builds, like I do this today. I spend time. If a kid or whatever else needs a little bit of time, it's very interesting to spend a little quality time with somebody
Yeah.
when they ask for it.
You know, somebody told me a long time ago. He said, you know, whatever you got to do, make sure you take and spend the extra time, sign autographs. He said, because people will never forget the way that you make them feel.
Yeah.
True.
You know, and
So
that,
true.
And that right there has been like my mindset all the time. Whenever I meet anybody, they'll never forget the way you make them feel.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we did schools now. It's like we taking kids that aren't working in the school systems and we're working with school systems
Yeah.
because those kids aren't working. It's a one kid in the classroom that disrupts a kid, or one kid in jail that can't go back to school, or whatever else. And we have a 97% graduation rate.
Wow.
So now I'm taking kids that would have maybe never graduated, or, you know, I mean, if you don't graduate high school today, it's very hard to get a job. It's very hard to go into a trade or anything else.
You have a gift. I mean, a very important gift, you know, which resonates to a lot of people and myself. But it all came from your family, I would think. You must have had a great, great foundation, because most tough guys, I mean, he's a rare exception. They've been through a lot of shit in their life, and they don't resonate like some people do. You know, they just want to fight, kill, or be killed. But you have a more different perspective on life. You're smiling all the time. You seem very educated, but you're a fighter.
I figured out how to love myself.
Me too, baby.
But most people, most fighters don't.
Right.
They fight because they have anger.
Yeah.
So what I think it comes down to, and I just trademarked this, is really cool: belief intelligence. Like,
That's awesome.
most people learn about their emotions and emotional intelligence, but they don't actually dive into where is the belief
Right.
that's creating that anger. Where is that interpretation at a certain point? Like, somebody takes your toy at 3 years old,
Mhm.
and then you're like, "I'm not enough because somebody's just stealing my toys." Like,
Yeah.
my son was at the park probably 8 months ago, and somebody just takes his ball off the ground, right, and just boots it, kicks it as hard as possible.
Did you
And
kick the kid as
and he-
hard as you could?
No, like, because the kid just wants attention, right?
Right.
But my son looks at me like this. He just looks up and he goes, "Papa," and he points to the ball.
Yeah.
So we go over and walk the ball. The kid tries to get it. I hold the ball, and I'm like, "Do you guys want to play together?" And the kid's like, "Yeah." And so the kid like boots the ball again, and then my son's like, "Papa," like, I'm not protecting.
He's an
his
infant,
stuff,
your little boy, right?
Yeah, he's almost 2 this weekend.
Yeah, he's a baby.
So it's interesting because I looked at him and I went and got the ball, and then the kid runs up and tries to do it again. And I look at my son, I go, some kids, some people will not play nice with you. Some people don't want to play with you. Some people just want attention. Maybe they're not getting enough attention
Right.
because you don't
Good
see
point,
their dad
man.
or their mom around here.
Right.
but I am your dad as an exec and, everything else. And I make the time to spend.
That's pretty dope.
That's dope, man.
That's dope. Yeah.
That's dope. So you're doing a lot of great things right now. But before I get into it, I got to ask you about the Kurt Angle story. Okay. Now, for a while, there was a big story in the public news.
It still comes up every year. I make top 10 or something.
Yeah.
Every single year because they say I tried to break his arm.
I was a big WWE fan as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and I love The Undertaker. Randy Savage, the Macho Man.
Yeah.
I love oh man, come on, I love the WWE.
I was just with Hulk Hogan 2 weeks ago.
I loved Hulk.
Yeah,
I loved,
I was at his sports bar, his karaoke night.
Wow.
I love them all.
Tampa?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's there. He was
With his kid. His kid owns it.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if his kid was there too. Nick was there. Yeah.
So you're in Tough Enough, this big TV show, which
Yep.
is getting major reviews, and it's in everybody's household, and we're all watching. And Angle goes and he picks a couple guys in your group to come wrestle him in the ring.
So
First guy beat the crap out of.
So he broke Chris Naraki's 3 of his ribs.
Yeah, broke 3 of his ribs.
Yeah.
I saw it. And then he goes, who else is tough enough to come up in here and kick my ass? Because I own this ring.
Now,
And
this is like WWE, like you guys are kind of
this is real. This is raw, I think.
Yeah. I raised my hand. You saw me. And all the other guys
You
were
raised your hand
as
like this.
fast as I could.
You were the first one to raise your hand, and you look to me like a little kid in class where the teacher says, "Who wants to come up here on the board and do this
Yeah.
this math problem?"
Yeah.
Somebody who studies every day was, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then you came up, and you had no idea what you were going to expect.
So
You just wanted to kick his ass in front of millions of people.
there's
Be honest now,
there's two
Dan.
things. Hold on. There's 2 things. One, the backstory. First, they ran sprints. So in the back of the stadium, they have this big long, like where the 18-wheelers come down.
Yeah.
So we were running up that and running back, and half the guys were almost puking.
How many times?
Oh.
Yeah, you guys looked all sweaty and shit.
I'd say like 10 or 20.
Oh,
Like
wow.
sprint. I mean, there's some good sprints. Then they fed us pasta and milk.
Oh, man.
Slow you down.
So I was
Mucus.
well, the other guys were trying to finish it, like they were trying to win. I'm like, screw this. I'm not trying to win them. I know they're gonna run us more. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like
pretending.
huffing and puffing. Oh yeah, I was pretending all the way.
Yeah,
Like it's WWE. Come on, like do it up, right?
Right.
And then they had us run liners. And what happened in the liners is everybody's backs and everything started to cramp and they started to puke because they ate all the pasta.
Yeah.
They tried to make us. So then we went out in the ring and did an up-down competition. So you stood up, you go down into a push-up, you stand back up.
This wasn't on TV yet, though.
No, this was all on TV. You just saw the Kurt Angle piece.
Right.
So you didn't see the whole lead up.
This was all live.
This is all, no, it's pre-taped on Tuesday and then it's aired on Thursday.
So it was all on television.
Yeah.
But didn't they tell you, because the WWE is kind of like, I'm not saying it's fake, but these are all
It's
choreographed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're choreographed. So didn't they say, okay, guys, whoever gets
No,
picked is going to go in the ring?
No, Tough Enough was not choreographed at all.
So that was real shit.
Everything
was
was
it same
real
thing with
every
Ultimate
week.
Fighter?
Yeah, same shit. Like when you're telling about you guys getting smoked and then having to do something, I'm just having like
You're seeing
flashback and having some trauma.
You guys are both on reality
trauma.
shows.
He has trauma right now.
over
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
man.
he's feeling it. He's seeing it.
I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, they tried to set us up to drink every week and
Yeah,
all this
same
stuff. They
thing,
all
yeah.
unlimited. I was the only one that wouldn't drink the whole time. Like, I don't drink
You
alcohol.
knew something
period.
was. You knew they were trying to like sabotage you guys.
Of course, it's all like they know they're gonna. I've watched enough reality TV
Yeah.
in my life that I know what they're trying to throw at you to get you to do dumb stuff.
right.
And I'm like, I'm gonna win this thing. Everybody else is doing dumb stuff. So we get out to the ring, up down competition. I won it, but in the back they have earpieces in the ref. So there's 2 of us, Chris and me, who both were blonde-ish, and they said, get the blonde guy out. Well,
The blind guy in the ring.
yeah, they should have taken him out first. But I'm thankful that they didn't.
When they say
because
getting out, getting in the ring or getting out of the ring?
getting out. We were in the ring and doing up downs.
Oh,
And
I
Kurt
see.
Angle was like, "This is the Kurt Angle competition." Da 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 da. Right.
Oh.
So they everybody else got pulled out when they stopped it. I was doing. If you watch it, I'll get you a DVD. I should have brought you one. But I was doing them perfect. Like I'm not even talking. Like I was properly trained.
Mhm.
Like I mean, I was trained with Frank at 17, right? So
Yeah.
this is like 4 years later. I know how to train right. So then I went out. He beat up Chris. Chris went out. He came over to me. Now, what most people don't know is my coach, Danny Shade. Do you know Danny?
No, I don't know.
He went to the Olympics. He lost to Kurt by like 1 or 2 points in like overtime or double
Oh,
overtime.
wow,
or
there's a
something like that
backstory.
to get to the Olympics.
There's a backstory.
He was my wrestling coach. So I knew that Kurt wasn't tougher. Like, you're not that much tougher. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
There's only
right.
so much toughness. And I knew that I was pretty
He's a
tough.
hell of a wrestler, Kurt Angle, though.
He's a freaking bad.
Guy's
He's
a
an
gold
Olympic gold
medalist.
medalist.
So you would go with your coach and you guys would have pretty tight goals?
So what do you mean?
When
When
you
you train with your coach, you said you were kind of measuring, him versus him.
Oh,
versus
I just
Kurt
knew,
Angle?
well, I just knew that like I've gotten whooped by Danny Shade.
Okay.
Right? Like I'm gonna get whooped. He's friends with who you brought up earlier, the wrestler from AK. Van, yeah. So and I'm like, okay, Kurt's like, same level.
Right.
I can pull this off. So I asked him, what's the deal? When I walked in the ring, they said no striking. That's it.
So you guys are going.
So they said no striking. So what would you do? Just wrestle? Or use your gift of breaking arms?
So you really went after
Dude, he went out there and almost ripped his arm off.
Man.
You got to see the video.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I key locked him.
Can we roll the tape? Can we roll the tape? Let's roll the tape.
I threw a key lock over. I was really good at that. It's one of my favorite moves.
Yeah.
It was a key lock.
And then I pull him into a Kimura and I lock him up.
Yeah, he was locked up.
And I went to go break his arm. They said,
Were you going to break his arm
You were
then?
going to go to break
well,
it.
no, I didn't want to break
You
his
trying to get
arm,
the
but I
tap,
just
right?
wanted to win. Like,
You
if I
wanted to-
would have won on TV on WWE,
So we trying to
They
get
wouldn't let that
we
happen.
tring to get him to tap or like
Yeah,
was it
I
like,
just wanted to win. Like, they said,
He
go.
went all out, dude. He went all out on a WWE.
Like, okay, so if like a Dana White came
He's a
in and said, hey,
23-year-old
by the
kid
way,
that's just got
like,
done training.
I'm going to train with you. Let's see who can go longer. Or like a big name. Like, you'd be like at a young kid. You're like, okay, let's go.
He had nothing to lose.
I had nothing to lose. Like, I was this kid on a TV show.
They should have framed that a little bit better.
If they would have worked that, it would have like...
They didn't do it right.
I've texted Kurt even after this, and I'm like, Kurt, let's do a show. Like, I'd be down for him.
I mean,
You would have made
Like,
a lot of money,
I
man.
seen Kurt
Till this
probably
day.
about a year ago, and Kurt could barely move his
Yeah,
neck or
yeah.
lift his arm.
Yeah.
So, I
but he
mean,
could be my manager. We
I
do
mean,
we
I
do a,
don't
we do a
know.
small run to impact kids for a nonprofit or do a big celebrity event, charity event. Like, I mean, we could do some cool stuff.
So, Dan, after this whole big Kurt Angle debacle for the WWE, a lot of pissed off executives. That's their golden boy.
Allegedly, yeah.
And you just kind of almost ripped his arm off. Okay. What was it like for you? I mean, it didn't work out right.
I got heat. It's interesting on, I think, the mindset of, like, if somebody excels in my company, I push them to excel. Why? Because I want a better company. In some other brands, people play politics. And that's how, you get different results. Like, if you find the best of the best all the time,
yeah.
like, I don't care if you're short or tall or green or blue or black or white or what. I mean, it's crazy in my company. If you can rock it, you get to move up. If you don't, you move out.
Was it disappointing? Or did you take it pretty hard?
So I went back to fighting.
So how did they do it?
Wait.
How'd they let you go?
Let's take a
So
step
no-
back. So
Yeah,
you
what
got
transpired?
you got him in a position,
Yeah.
and you were cranking it on his arm.
Yep.
Then what followed right after that?
So the referee. So what happened was in gorilla position in the back.
Yeah.
So Vince is there.
Triple H.
Couple people run up to him and they're like, Daniel's about to break his arm. And they looked at it and they were like, and then they told the ref to tap me out. Like 3 count me out, right? Because I was on one side of my back. So there's multiple camera angles. You got 2 or 3 hard cameras, and you got a couple moving cameras. So they put out on Thursday the camera that showed me not on my back. And then for all the DVDs and all the content for internet and everything, they re-put out the one that was on my back. So they played a little politics. It was good. But the biggest thing on WWE is it taught me how to understand camera angles and production. It taught me how to build relationships. It taught me how to work harder than I've worked before for something. And it taught me how to speak. Like, I went out there and I was doing promos. Like, when they were at the clubs, I was doing promos at nighttime.
So I'm kind of lost a little bit. So how did you win if you almost broke Kurt's arm?
Fan votes.
So you still got the fan votes, and
Yeah.
they still allowed you to win after you almost broke his arm?
More people voted for me after that
Yeah.
than anybody else.
Wow.
They respected you.
Yeah,
I
they
thought
did.
you would have got kicked off the show after that. I thought they would be like, yo, get this guy out of here. He's some crazy ass Yahoo. We don't want to deal with him no more.
Well, they thought that
They
too.
probably thought that too.
Don't get me wrong. You're right about that. Yeah.
But people would have probably been pissed. Like, you
Yeah.
take the guy that, I mean, he's the one that called me out. I didn't go in there and threaten him, right?
What was your relationship with him after this whole thing happened?
So after I won Tough Enough, he came up and congratulated me.
Did you really?
Yeah. So what people didn't know in the back end is one of my like mentors for years was a guy named Dave Meltzer. He writes.
Yeah, he's got a podcast.
No, different Dave Meltzer.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So two different Meltzer. You're thinking Dave Meltzer that you're talking about on the business side of it.
Yeah.
He was on my podcast before.
Okay.
But Dave Meltzer is in California. He owns the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
Oh, okay.
So he's the biggest news reporter for pro wrestling and a lot of the MMA stuff, definitely in Japan, in the world. He's one of the biggest. He's like Sherdog back in the day. He's like one of those guys. So he knows everything that's going on. Me and him were talking strategy every day. I mean, like literally, I was on the phone with him like an hour or two a day.
Wow.
He's helping me with promos. He's helping me with framework, concepts, ideas. Like I had an edge over the other guys because I had somebody who's an industry expert.
Yeah.
So today when I do business, you have to be an industry expert. You know, like if I partner with somebody, like my partners in education are education. My partner in my branding company is a like rock star in branding. Like you have to have.
How does a fighter that comes out of Cupertino, California,
special ed, as getting
college
beat
wrestler,
up.
WWE, become somebody that's involved in special ed, children that need assistance, inner city kids? How did you get into this great career that you're currently involved in?
So I was on TMZ in October 2010, and I said, I'll come to your school if you're being bullied. So that was when a lot of kids were committing suicide from being bullied around the country, whether, they were special ed or LGBT or whatever it was. And I said, I will come to your school. And we got over 10,000 emails in 8 weeks from 12 different countries.
Really?
Wow.
It was massive. Like my email, the next morning when it aired, it shut my phone off in half an hour. The emails were coming in so fast on my phone, it burned the power out. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how does this even work?
So what did you do? I mean, here you are. I mean, you're not really a business-oriented guy. I mean, you're smart, but you don't know anything about running schools. How does a wrestler become a school superintendent?
So I started my first company when I was 4.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my parents invested. It was, and they bought me
They
chickens.
invested in you when you were 4.
4, yeah. Bought me chickens. And I took the eggs, sold the eggs, right? And then at 15, I did something. 16, at 17, I started a painting company where I actually had like a $4,000 sprayer. Like I invested, I painted houses, I rented the sprayers, and then I went out and did that. And I did that. So I was entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Started a screen printing company at one point when I was in college, a banner machine, I did some really awesome stuff. And then I've worked for my dad a bunch. And so I understood the framework.
Those golf balls took you down the road.
Those golf balls have that much ink on it. You know what I'm saying? My
You
dad
gotta
still
be
owns the
really
company.
squeaking, man, and see those golf balls.
Those things, I know, right?
Yeah.
So at one point, I developed a whole ink line for flat items. So
Oh,
it's
no.
different than round items than pad printing. So I learned a lot of skill sets. But the nonprofit, I toured all around the country, spoke at different events. I came to Florida with Chief Ian Moffett. He was the Miami-Dade school police chief, and I actually spoke at his national conference for school police chiefs, 10 years ago. And then I told my partner, I go, Brittany, I was like, I'm gonna move to Florida. Like this is exactly where I want to be. So I moved here. I moved here 9 years ago.
Yeah. So Daniel, so after you did the wrestling, you did the fighting, and then you said that you were going to go to anybody's school who's getting bullied. How did that, like, what did you do at these schools once you went there to kind of parlay you into being the superintendent?
Yeah. So first I created a curriculum. So I said, first kids need to know. So bullying happens within. So you can bully, your hurt can be put on other people if you wanted to. Like you can try to bully, pick on people, tease people, whatever. The problem is most people don't know themselves enough. They don't have their concrete belief systems.
Mhm.
So they allow your hurt to affect them.
Right.
So then they become hurt. So it's very simple. I went to one school at one point, and we used to do this thing called the biggest challenge. So out of 1,000 kids, 2,000 kids in an auditorium, piece of paper on the front, kids would come up and they would write their biggest challenge. And the worst ones I've ever heard, the 2 worst, in a rich school, I heard my dad hit me because I got a B. But the 2 worst is my dad beat me so bad he broke his foot on my face. And the second one is my dad died a couple years ago and he raped me. And he died of AIDS a couple years ago and he raped me.
Wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
I had tens of thousands of these from all around the country. But the problem is schools were not actually, I would show them after the event, and schools would not, and we did a whole thing.
Do anything about it.
They would not do anything about it.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't want to. A lot of times schools want to deny because if it's happening, then they have to do something.
Right.
So in our school, we have a 1 to 55 ratio for like student advisors or counselors to 1. Then we have a 1 to 25 teacher.
Yeah.
So I know our kids, and I'm not saying it's the principals or the teachers are the issue. It's mass market education.
Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes a funding issue for them too because they have all the sports that they gotta, save money for and all these other extracurricular activities they want to save for to be able to
You don't even
for
have
the
sports at your
school.
school.
But I mean, you know, they don't may not have enough money for the extra counseling or whatever it's going to take to really kind of help these kids out in the way they need, as you're explaining.
So we get in our schools now, we get about 7,000 per kid. In a public school, I would say it's over 15, but that includes not just money from the state. That includes like they don't have to pay rent for
Mm.
property. They get retirement. So there's a lot of other factors on the back end that a lot of people don't see. They might say, "Oh, the schools only get $9,000." Okay, so how much rent do they pay? A dollar per square foot per year. Like I'm paying anywhere from 13 to 33
Mm.
a square foot. It's expensive, right? Like
They make you pay that. Even though you're doing such a great mitzvah and helping these children, they're still coming at you and saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, you got to pay this amount of
I
money."
take it back. One location in our West Virginia, it's $1 a year for 6,000 square feet. But it's one, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, most people that have a shopping center, they're like, we want our money.
Right.
So you take over basic. So I've been to your school, one of your schools. I done in Miramar or Palmetto.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and
Color Bay. Yeah.
Color Bay. It looked like what was it before it was a school? It was
Industrial building.
It was an industrial building.
Yeah.
You converted into a school.
Mhm.
So you look for these different types of kind of odd commercial real estate properties, plazas, old movie theaters, whatever it is, and you kind of convert them into these schools, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the state comes and they give you some funding and some grants.
No, they don't give me anything up front. I have to get outside investors. So we have like family offices now investing. That's why I was at Opal.
Oh, okay, okay.
So we last year in
Oh,
Rhode
okay.
Island. Yeah, right. Last year in
You
Rhode
guys met up there, right?
this last year.
Yeah.
That's so ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the year before, I got my first family office investor because we had a few schools, and I'm like, I want to start expanding. And so the goal is to have 100, 200 schools in the next 5-7 years. I mean, it's just a building process. The biggest challenge is the systems and processes. So what I'm really good at is understanding like the future of the industry because I spend a lot of time looking at where it's going. The next thing is you're going to have this thing and this camera here, and you're going to put that on your face, right? Little VR deal.
Mhm.
But that camera right there is going to read your iris. And then your watch is going to read your heart rate and your blood pressure and all this stuff. So we're literally going to know how to teach a kid to the maximum way versus their learning style and their love languages and how their body functions and their, how much sleep they get and how much water
Right.
they intake. Like we're literally, and then the next level is what like Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink. You're going to put it on their head, 30 minutes of learning, 15, 10 minutes. You're going to learn the content and then it's all project based. I love that because I think we spend too much time learning the content versus actually doing something with the content.
Right. Learning.
You know, you
yeah.
guys are very, very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tell you because I know him real good and I know you. You guys are deep into the thought process. I mean,
it's everything. I mean,
yeah.
you go way above and beyond, man.
yeah.
Like do you believe everything you see?
do I believe everything? I
Hell
see?
no.
No.
Do you believe everything you hear?
No.
Do you believe everything you think?
Yeah.
So do you think about CBS ever?
I think about what?
CBS, the news. You ever seen CBS or Fox or any
Yeah,
of these?
yeah.
Do you ever believe that? Like when you think
No,
about it, do
no,
you believe
no,
it?
No.
So do you really believe everything you really think? Because you're thinking about it, right?
Well, I mean,
There's a process.
yeah. There's definitely a process, but if I'm thinking it and it's coming from me,
Yeah.
then like
Do you believe everything on TikTok that you think
no,
about?
No, absolutely.
So the idea, so I
Yeah,
get where
yeah,
you're
yeah,
at.
yeah.
So I don't believe everything I think, see, or hear or experience all the time, but there's a process of my beliefs where
Right.
I can analyze what pieces of what I experience or see or hear, feel, think about what's right and what's not.
right.
So we
right.
all create our own interpretations
of everything you see.
of everything
Yeah.
all day. The biggest challenge is today's youth in certain neighborhoods that we work in have a belief that they're not going to live past tomorrow. They're going to become an NFL player, but they're not even playing sports. They want to be whatever it is, but they have no commitment or
Plan to get there.
vision, or they don't even know their purpose. Like when somebody lives on purpose, whole different human.
Yeah.
When you're willing to you look at people in, different countries, they're willing to blow themselves up to be a human bomb
Right.
because their belief is so strong. Not saying that's good. I don't agree with it. But it's interesting how some people have no beliefs. They don't
Right.
care. They're willing to change beliefs like some of our politicians. or a lot of them, or some people are so dedicated to who they are as a human that they're not going to waver no matter what. They will die for their actual belief.
That's amazing. There's one thing I
Yeah.
didn't bring up, which I want to take a step back. You never lost an MMA fight. You're
No.
undefeated.
8-0, right?
So 8-0 pro, and then I had, before amateur was amateur, they called it amateur back in the day. I had a bunch of little amateur fights, so it was good.
That's a pretty bold statement. So now you're involved in all these schools.
So people talk back. They're like, "Why didn't you go for 9? Why didn't you go for 10? Why didn't you go for?"
Oh, you
I
probably,
was like, so I got screwed on a fight contract too.
well, I saw that. So they
Yeah,
they
so it was
paid you
good.
$250,000.
No, that was
contract,
that was WWE. That was WWE.
and then they dropped you to $75,000.
So I got paid the first $250,000 the first year, and then they were like, "Hey, would you like to come back to WWE for like, it was like 60 or 70 grand a year for, another 3 years?" And I'm like, "No."
So they would have took you back. Was that? Did they know that you weren't going to take that? Did they know you were going to say, you know what, go screw yourself?
I don't know. But to me, I'm like, hold on, I commit, I follow through, but now you want to offer me something that,
It's a third.
yeah, I'm like, no, thank you. So I went back to fighting. Had some fights.
Did you regret it though? Did you think maybe you should have stuck it to WWE?
No.
You saw how big it became.
No.
Did you ever think
I'm
that you-
super blessed where I'm at today.
Did you ever want to progress your MMA career to be like in a big UFC or a pride or anything?
So Dana offered a couple times, twice actually. And I liked fighting for Strikeforce. Dana wanted me to fight at that point, my second pro fight after WWE I got out. I only was 1-0 pro. He said, "Why don't you fight Andre Arlovsky for the championship?" And I'm like, "It's my second pro fight." Like, he's like, "Okay, we'll give you one starter and then you go." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." Like,
And back then, Andre Arlovsky was no joke.
He
bro.
was tough.
He was scary. Yeah, he was damn right scary.
but it's my second pro fight. I'm
He
like,
was a
I
tough
know
son
my
of a-
limits, but I see what I saw was Dana was throwing people in real fast. And I highly respect what he's done in the industry. I mean, he made UFC, he made Ultimate Fighting what it is.
right, pretty much.
Period. MMA, period. Like, nobody would be getting full-time what they're paying over multiple brands
Right.
anywhere, except for there was a lot in Japan back in the day and maybe some in China. So he's done very good. But I just didn't like his plan for my life. So I picked my own. And then I got jacked on a contract that I signed with Strikeforce. And then I said, you know what? That kept me for 18 months tied up. And then after that, I had 2 more fights and my heart wasn't in it.
Mm,
So I was like, I'm going to go. Then I started the nonprofit.
okay.
And then I started traveling and speaking. So it was good.
You're a great speaker,
Thank you.
and I've been to your schools. Kids love you, but I see you're also like some of these kids that come up to you. You have a fine line where you'll go let them, be themselves, but then if they go down the wrong road, you put them into the place. I mean,
I'll support him lovingly.
yeah. I saw
There,
that.
there was one kid that, there was about 8 kids that talk smack. They'll kick my ass kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
I
okay.
remember something
I'm
like
like, I'll get. Oh, you went to Liberty City. That's
Yeah.
where you went.
I was
You
in
went to
Liberty
the
City. I
first
was there.
year. The first year.
I was the hood. It was the hood of school.
Yeah. So that was the most like when I started it.
I mean,
four,
let me tell you, man, this
5
school was
Yeah.
5 years ago, we had
Like
17,
lean on me.
17 kids. So
like East Side High.
So it was right. It's a block away from Poke and Beans in Liberty City. So it was the most FBI standards. It was the most violent neighborhood in South Florida.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
So I was like the token white guy, right?
yeah, you were.
Like, and my partner's Jamaican, and my other partner's Cuban, and my other partner's Greek, right? Canadian. So it's interesting on like our diversity. But at the end of the day, I've had a lot of people in different cities say I can't impact their kids. Like, I had
You've
some
done
guy
it.
in a meeting once that was not white. He's like, how can you impact my kids?
Yeah,
I'm
I
like-
could see that.
So are you there all day with these kids?
So now I was in the beginning. Then my partner Mike kicked me out. He's like, you need to like get out of here. All the kids want to do is play and wrestle with you all day, right? And like talk about life and do business.
Yeah,
He's like, we need to teach them. So I go into different schools. I mean, we have eight campuses now. But the
you
idea
have
is like,
8 campuses now.
Yeah.
When I met you,
We had
years
one.
ago, you had 1 campus.
yeah, 4 years ago, 5
That's
years ago.
amazing. That's fantastic.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah. So we started with 3
Congratulations,
kids,
bro.
3 kids in one campus.
That's freaking awesome,
Wow.
bro.
So how
8
many
campuses, man.
how many graduates have you had in the 4 years?
Probably about 650, 700.
Wow. And these are kids who are just like
They're lost.
they're
Rashad.
done. These are the kids that
Failing out,
they
have
watched.
no idea.
They were
arrested.
just like gonna
I mean, yeah.
This
I mean,
is the
they're-
worst
they're-
of the worst.
These are some of the most challenged kids that don't have other opportunities. Some
Yeah.
of them are getting kicked out of alternative schools.
wow.
I mean,
So we're like the last shot before
jail.
jail on
Yeah.
on some of them. And some of these kids are straight A honor students, but they're like, I'm done with school. I don't need the drama. I don't need the environment. I want to get on with my life. So,
So-
there's a mix.
So when you get these kids in your program, like what is it that you say to them to say, hey guys, like this is not going to be like your other schools. We got to make the most of it. Like, how do you get them in the right direction to be able to, take this opportunity as an opportunity and see it as an opportunity and not squander it like they did high school and maybe alternative education?
So my question to them, I mean, everybody has their own thing. Is my question is, do you want to make more money or less money?
So you hit them right,
Where they want,
right
With
there.
the dollar.
they
Yeah.
want to
The
know, like,
almighty
how do I
dollar.
make
That'll
money?
get you every time.
Yeah.
And I've never had one. Every single 100% of people have always said, I want to make more money. I'm like, then you have to learn the framework on how to make money in life. But it's not just about financial wealth. Would you take your mother's health or money? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, would you take, if your mother had stage 4 cancer and you were worth $100 million, would you take that, or your mother being healthy and you have a good living? They're like, good living. I mean, there's been one or two that are like, I'll take the money.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't have a relationship with their mother. Maybe they don't, they're like, maybe I
Yeah.
can do more. I can fix it. I'm like, I know wealthy people that still die.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Right.
I think it's at this point, it's a quality of
Quality
life.
of life. Yeah.
So having enough money to do, the only reason I use money as a tool to impact more lives. I don't spend much money. I mean, like my wife and I, we don't spend that much money. It's crazy how much we
You
spend.
got a great wife, by the way. I met her the other night
Yeah,
at
she's
Mike
awesome.
Tyson's event for the first time. And thank you for coming out to support
I love that.
Mike
event.
and Tom Patty.
We're
who-
going to do that event in Arizona.
Yeah. Well, you can talk a little bit about it. So Mike Tyson.
we're gonna take that to the Diamondbacks. I'm just throwing this out. I'm like setting this in like in intention here.
So Dan's a big Mike Tyson fan, just like everybody is. And Mike happens to be a friend of mine, and I was the moderator for a big event at the Fontainebleau this past weekend. And it was a charity event for a congressional congressman to be Tom Patty from Northern California, from where you're from.
Yeah.
So you met Mike,
Mhm.
amazing guy.
Yep.
He was an awesome guy, and you want to get him involved with these inner city kids because you have some friends in very high places in the Senate out in Arizona that want Mike to be some type of partner with these school systems.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
They
That's
just want
interesting.
in Arizona and here. They just people. I think there's a lot of people that really want to transform kids' lives.
Yeah.
But why would Mike Tyson be such a good role model?
It's who he was.
I mean, Mike
Like-
has been through it.
It-
Mike has been through the whole juvenile system,
Yeah.
and even as an adult, but he's experienced so many different levels of exactly what these kids may be facing, and
Yeah.
the ups and downs of it all.
I agree.
Like
Yeah.
he had his coach. What happens if Mike didn't have his coach?
Right.
Cuss.
What happens if I didn't have Frank
Yeah.
or Javier Mendez? Like who knows where we would be, right? Like it could have been one
You
direction
had
or
a
the
guy
other.
like that.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
coached in
I
high
mean,
school. Remember, he was like your mentor.
I mean, I had Coach Bill Dixon, wrestling coach, who wouldn't let me quit. He'll come and pick my ass up if I missed training, and I had to train with him afterwards. And it was a lot harder than it would have been if I just would have trained with the team.
Hmm.
So eventually, I just stopped missing practice. But his dedication to see something in me that I didn't see in myself was the biggest difference in my life.
Yeah. Teddy Lee was my 7th and 8th grade coach, and then Matt Erdman was my youth pastor, and he did my coaching for my 4 years of high school.
Wow.
So it's interesting. Like if certain people don't have these coaches, like I now can show you. You show me the kid, and I will bet you I can say if they have a coach or a human that's directing them and giving them added value in life.
So you've been around guys like Rashad with Ken. I mean, I think Ken's a UFC Hall of Famer too.
I don't know.
Is he a UFC Hall of
yeah,
Famer?
Ken is, yeah.
So, you're kicking it here with a UFC Hall of Famer about
Yeah.
kids and life. I mean, what is that like, Dan? I mean, you
I
guys came from the
grew up
same-
with Frank and all these guys. Like it was the biggest blessing in the world. Like people don't get to spend time. I mean, how many people do you actually sit down with and give an hour of your time to?
Not very many.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I look at two things. One, people in the fighting world, they either live on purpose or they live for profit. And profit's always good with some purpose, but it's like which one comes more?
Right.
And so at the end of the day, my goal at this point is like, how do I spend time with the best humans possible that want to make this world a better place? Like we look at our social media and we look at our like politics right now. Like look at Venezuela 20, 30 years ago
Right.
when they were thriving before. Like there's some stuff that's coming in our world right now. Like, I mean, my wife's dad, he was the head of NATO for a whole base back in the day. And he's like, what's happening in Europe, I think it's Switzerland or Sweden. Don't quote me on this, but you can Google it. He just told me about it. If you leave your AC, your heater above 66 degrees, so you cannot heat it past 66, so it can't go to 72. in this winter, then you go to jail for 3 years. So they just
crazy.
now I don't know how accurate that is, but he
That's
just told me this
crazy.
from European news. He's not getting news from here.
Yeah.
The guy speaks 7 languages. Like he got his master's in his MBA in Russia. Like this guy is smart.
Wow.
But what's happening right now in the world, if we, from my opinion, athletes have the ability to gain the community's trust and attitude and commitment because of who they were and how many people actually get to your level. It's like
Right.
1 in, a million, maybe 1 in 10 million. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy but what do they do with it? Like
I
you
agree.
could be the best in the world,
Yeah.
but if you're, somebody that just flushes it down the toilet, and I think that's where like Mike Tyson, he was the best in the world, but he lost a coach.
Yeah.
And he lost purpose or direction or that person that was really there
He
at a
was
certain
lost
point.
a couple of those fights.
Yeah.
And he lost. He went off track. And I believe like where he's at today, what I saw with his HBO special, what I've seen like with social media, he's built businesses. He's
Yeah.
built a family.
He's
built
Yeah,
back.
because he's tapped into that part of himself where he became his own guru.
Right.
Right. And he tapped into that self, that
Mm.
knowingness, the higher self that allows him to really see beyond that mindset that he had before. And because he has a perspective, his perspective is crazy. Like you sit down and you talk to Mike, and Mike say something, you like,
He's highly
damn,
intelligent,
like you just can't
as
believe
you
that
saw.
the concepts that he put together and just very simple, you know what I'm saying? But it's just real shit. And
Yeah.
when you hear it, you just like,
So true.
ooh, that's some real shit he said,
So it was interesting because I was with Dalai Lama about 3 years ago. And Dalai Lama shook my hand. Out of 100,000 people, didn't touch one person except for me. Well, and my buddy, he actually touched his forehead. But it was very interesting because there's certain people that like make serious freaking impact. Like there's 0 porta potties at a 100,000 people event in India,
Wow.
in the middle of St. Kitts, India, right? Like 100,000.
You were there.
I was there. I flew to India. I drove from like it was the crazy. That's a whole different
Shot,
story.
man. You do shrooms?
No, I didn't do shrooms. No. I didn't do shrooms.
All right, just getting that out of the way.
And it's interesting on like Mike was talking about one thing that really stood out. My wife was like, that doesn't make sense. Mike was like, and also, what's your buddy's name that was there running for Congress? He's
Tom.
great. Tom, he's amazing. Both of them were like, we were trying to impress our coach so much. We would do
Yeah.
anything for him.
That's what he said.
And it's interesting when you get fulfillment from other people versus yourself.
Mhm.
And I believe what you just said. I believe Mike is getting fulfillment with himself and his own purpose versus being a part of the world's purpose or his coach's purpose. Like he's figured it out now.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's hard to do that. Most people rely on others because they want other stuff. They want people to love them and like them and care for them. I mean, I'm the same. I'm like, if you live this way, I'm down. But if you're over here, I don't need to spend time anymore.
Right.
Like, why spend? I got 168 hours a week. Why spend? Like, people are like, why don't you go to the gym more? I'm like, I go to the gym 3 hours a week. That's all I need. And usually, maybe sometimes 2 hours a week, maybe once a week if but I'd rather spend an extra 2, 3, 4 hours with my son every week because
Yeah.
he's going to remember.
And you're a great dad, by the way.
Yeah.
I've known you now for quite a bit. He's the apple of your eye.
He's
bro.
fun.
He's everything, man. And I'm so happy for you. You got a beautiful wife.
Yep.
Great child, man. And you're doing great things for everybody, especially kids, man. I just want to congratulate you on a great career, man.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. And it was great having you on this show today. We can sit here and we can kick it for hours.
I know,
because-
Man, I want to get on with you with some of these schools, man. And just
Yeah.
kinda, see where I can help out because I mean,
Help out. We just want to
Yeah.
build a school with you.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm with it.
Like there's no here's my thought today. There's nonprofits that help people.
Yeah.
And there's very little people that ever solve a problem. Give me one nonprofit that's ever solved a problem. I don't know of one.
When you heard that this cat was coming on the show, you were
So I texted him right after we were together. And then I texted you and I'm like, let's do the show. Cause you were like, I got to get you on the show. I texted him back. I'm like, I'll see you on Thursday at the show.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
Yeah, no, I knew you guys would hit it off, and coming from the same backgrounds and so forth, and you guys have the same visions moving forward too. So it's an excellent movement. It's the movement.
Yeah.
As Khaled would say, the movement. You know what I mean?
And
So-
you're doing awesome stuff in the medical field, like the mindset world, the
Yeah.
supplements.
Yeah,
like,
killing it.
absolutely, man.
you're smashing it.
Yeah, I've been just just branching out, just kind of finding that second win and finding the next why. For the longest time after I finished with fighting, I retired. You got that void. You got that hard void, and sometimes you want to veer right or veer left, but you got to keep on the straight, and it's easy to deviate off path because you
distractions.
not only distractions, but you're trying to you're trying to make up for something internally that you had with fighting that you just don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Being a fighter is a very intimate process with yourself on so many different levels, and when you don't have that deep connection, when you don't have that date that you're pushing for, where you have to be on point, then life can get kind of messy.
Would
You
you? Would
know,
you? So what'd you fill the void with in between?
with
Mike
I
Sherman.
mean, I didn't know what to fill the void with. You know what I'm saying? Like you know,
Undefeated.
you know, I didn't drink or anything like that. I didn't
You gave up
do.
drinking and everything.
I gave up everything. You know,
Good.
I kind of went inside and
Cool.
I got a little weird a few years. I wouldn't say weird. I just got more, and I say weird because I mean I'm sure that's how my friends thought. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, but I just got very. I went inside, and when I went inside, I just kind of, shut out the rest of the world.
Mm.
And then I'm like, all right,
Time to come out.
now I need to come out. Now I'm okay to come out. Now I feel ready to start again.
Yeah.
But it took a long time for me to feel that feeling again, and to feel it and not force it is where I'm at. Like even some like I'm still kind of slow to come back to my social media like how I was, because sometimes you just see the fakeness of so much,
Yeah.
and being able to just swallow it for the longest time was the hardest thing for me. But you just got to change the way you're thinking,
Yeah.
and that's what I had to do.
Well, guys,
Yeah.
this was phenomenal, man. This was one of the best podcasts so far. We've had some great celebrities on this. Then we had Mickey Ward a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's great, and we've got a whole bunch of great celebrities coming up in the future. So I want to keep this train moving. You're an excellent guy, Daniel.
Amazing, man.
Appreciate it,
Amazing.
bro.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Man.
I'm just
I love
happy
it.
to be a part of your world, bro. And if there's anything else that ever comes up, you ever want to come back on the show, man, please feel free to come and give us your love,
Thank you.
because it's always inspiring.
Thank you guys.
It's inspiring. Well, guys, that's it. That's another episode of the one and only Suga and Sherm with the one and only Daniel Puder. We'll see you next week with another fantastic podcast. Enjoy. That's it, baby.